This is an iHeart podcast.
And yet we heard from White House aide Neera Tanden reportedly testifying she had no idea who in Biden's inner circle gave her permission to use the Autopen. If there is this underlying plot to hide Biden's mental condition so that others could arrogate his power in that way, that's a conspiracy crime. So it's no wonder two people have already taken the fifth.
You're listening to the 47 Morning Update with Ben Ferguson.
Good Thursday morning. It's so nice to have you with us on the 47 Morning Update, and we've got some really big breaking news. Representative James Comer now explaining exactly what's at stake in the investigation into Biden's Autopen use. And yes, the White House is now opening an investigation into that Autopen, who was using it, and did Joe Biden even know it was happening? Also, you may have heard the big lie. Democrats saying that illegal immigrants are not on Medicaid. Well, Representative Wesley Hunt is now asking New York about their 670,000 illegal immigrants and, quote, how many of them are actually on Medicaid.
But first, I want to talk to you about starting my day. I do it every morning with an amazing cup of Crockett coffee. If you want unbelievable coffee every morning, then I got to introduce you to Crockett Coffee. And I just had my first cup a few moments ago. I've got a cup of coffee every moment when I'm doing this show. Crockett Coffee is roasted perfection in small batches on purpose by experts that love the taste of amazing coffee. It's roasted in our nation's heartland and delivered fresh to your home or office. And if you want to drink coffee every morning that makes you feel like you're outside by a campfire, then you got to check out the aroma of Crockett Coffee. It brews in your home or your office, and you're going to love it. Now, this is premium coffee. If you want an average cup of coffee, do not order Crockett Coffee. There is also one other thing I love. It is owned by great conservatives, fellow patriots, Buck Sexton and Clay Travis. They came up with this idea, and they're two guys that never sell out. So if you're ready to have a great cup of coffee, then choose between the fresh ground, the whole bean, or the K-Cups. And if you're interested in mushroom coffee and the positive benefits that come with that, you can also check that out at Crockett Coffee. Now, I want to save you some money right now. Go online to crockettcoffee.com. Use my name, Ben. You're going to get 20% off your first order. That's crockettcoffee.com. Use my name, Ben. You're going to get 20% off your first order. You are going to love your coffee every morning. Try it. You'll be hooked just like I am. And you're going to go, man, I love supporting great conservatives who are willing to go out there and start new businesses for conservatives just like you. crockettcoffee.com. Promo code Ben. Get you 20% off your first order. Try it right now.
It's the 47 Morning Update, and it starts right now.
Story number one.
It is official. The White House now confirming they are opening the Autopen Biden investigation. Yes, you can smile. We may actually get some answers about just how bad the cognitive decline of Joe Biden was and who was actually running the White House. It was clearly an Autopen, and somebody was directing that Autopen to do things and sign things and give out pardons, and it wasn't the sitting president, Joe Biden. The White House Counsel's office has officially opened this investigation on former President Joe Biden's White House abuse of the presidential Autopen to sign those pardons, executive orders, and other laws and actions, potentially without the former president's knowledge. This is, in my opinion, one of the biggest political scandals in all of American history. Sources confirming the opening of the investigation within the Trump White House. And the press secretary, Caroline Levitt, issued a statement that the administration is, quote, committed to finding the answers. Joe Biden was the worst, the most incompetent and senile president in our country's history, is what Caroline Levitt wrote in a statement, responding to the press request for a comment. It has been widely reported that Joe Biden handed the power of the presidency to an Autopen that was controlled by unelected leftist staffers who were allowed to make terrible decisions that destroyed our country. The Trump White House is committed to finding the answers to many outstanding questions the American people still have about how business in the Biden White House was conducted, Levitt's statement added. President Trump also had something to say at the White House in an unrelated sitting in the Oval Office. Here's what he had to say about this scandal as well.
Whoever operated the Autopen had a policy, which is, by the way, I think the biggest scandal. That's the scandal they should be talking about, not Jeffrey Epstein. The scandal you should be talking about is the Autopen, because I think it's the biggest scandal, one of them in American history.
Now let's talk about what the investigation is going to look like. I'm being told that this investigation will include the review of tens of thousands of documents turned over to the National Archives, as well as Records Administration. And those documents, as the New York Times first reported early over the weekend, will potentially provide direct evidence of whether Biden was aware of the actions that were being signed by the Autopen. That would be his signature. Now, Biden potentially absolved his senior officials that acted on his behalf by Autopen by telling the Times in a blanket statement that could whitewash complicity, saying, quote, "I conscientiously made all those decisions," is what Biden's staff said to the Times. "I made every decision," quote unquote, is Biden's quote. Now, the American people, you can decide to believe Joe Biden, but I think it's pretty clear the White House is not going to take the former president at his word. Which brings me to another story, a very important one as well. There's a guy by the name of Anthony Bernal. He is the former chief of staff for the First Lady Jill Biden, often dubbed her work husband. He was before Congress and invoked his Fifth Amendment right during a deposition by the House Oversight Committee. In fact, he refused to answer any questions related to President Joe Biden's cognitive fitness, whether he was ever asked to lie about the president's health or about the use of the presidential Autopen. Now, he is the second former aide to do so, following the president's physician, Dr. Kevin O'Connor. Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer emphasized the seriousness of this refusal, saying it raises concerns that unelected staff may have assumed presidential-level decision-making responsibilities. Now, Dr. Kevin O'Connor, who also pled the Fifth, Biden's longtime White House physician, invoked it the same way at a closed-door deposition before the same committee. The committee pressed him on whether he was ever instructed to misrepresent Biden's health or believe the president to be unfit to serve. He would not answer that question. Now, Republicans have obviously highlighted this as an extraordinary cover-up and suggestive of a concealed cover-up that was planned by top-level people in the White House. The Democrats would have been involved, and the doctor's legal team stressed that exercising the right does not imply wrongdoing. It simply protects self-incrimination. So here's the bigger picture. The House Oversight Committee, led by James Comer, is actively investigating the allegations that Biden's health issues were so secretive, were so concealed, that aides may have used the Autopen to sign official documents, possibly circumventing presidential authority. And they may have signed documents that Joe Biden never intended to sign, didn't even know existed, and invoked policy decisions that he didn't even know about. Representative Jasmine Crockett, Democrat from Texas, a committee Democrat, has defended President Biden, asserting that occasional verbal missteps are not, quote, evidence of cognitive failure. The investigation into Biden's cognitive fitness and potential misuse of the Autopen is clearly intensifying. With Bernal and O'Connor both invoking their Fifth Amendment rights, House Republicans view this as evidence of internal concealment, while Democrats are maintaining the lie, saying this is no big deal at all and it doesn't prove any wrongdoing. Now, at the end of the day, this is going to come down to what the White House finds, what they see in the records. And I wouldn't be shocked to see more people invoke the Fifth Amendment so they don't incriminate themselves or lie under oath to Congress.
Now, story number 2.
There has been a question that many Republicans have been asking. How many illegal immigrants are actually receiving access to Medicaid benefits? Now, if you ask the Democratic Party, they will tell you that there isn't a single illegal immigrant that is receiving Medicaid benefits. Insert a brilliant move by Texas Representative Wesley Hunt. He's now demanding data from the New York governor over how many of the state's estimated 670,000 illegal immigrants are actually receiving access to those Medicaid benefits that Democrats say, well, it's not happening at all. Hunt, a Republican, decided to just straight up ask the question directly to the governor on Monday, raising questions about how the Empire State has leveraged waivers to actually allow its Medicaid program to operate differently from federal standards and mandates. Governor Hochul is required to report this information to the federal government. So the question is simple. Will she comply or continue to harbor lawbreakers while putting the health care of law-abiding citizens at risk? Hunt said in a statement to the New York Post. This is what Democratic leadership looks like. Open borders, benefits for illegal aliens, and betrayal of the people they're supposed to be representing, the American people. Now, there is an estimated 1.4 million people, quote, whose citizenship, nationality, or satisfactory immigration status is not, quote, verified, and they are potentially being covered by Medicaid programs in various states. That coming now from the Congressional Budget Office. I'll have more on that in a moment. But one study from the liberal-leaning Fiscal Policy Institute, cited by Congressman Hunt, found that there are some 670,000 illegal immigrants in the Empire State. In fact, it is now about 5% of the population. New York has benefited from Section 1115 waivers, which allows it to experiment and deviate from federal standards in its implementation of Medicaid, a program that provides health insurance to 70 million low-income Americans. And now the question is, how many illegals? A spokesperson for the governor quickly fired back at Congressman Hunt and argued that he should have focused on opposing the One Big Beautiful Bill Act over its Medicaid reforms instead of targeting New York, saying this: if Representative Hunt were truly concerned about the health and well-being of his constituents, he should have directed his focus to voting against the big ugly bill, which will invoke irreparable damage to Medicaid programs nationwide, including in his home state of Texas. Yet again, you may notice that the spokesperson for the governor did not answer the question: how many illegal immigrants are receiving benefits? This is just another pitiful attempt, the governor's office went on to say, to divert attention from Republican actions to eliminate health care for 1.5 million New Yorkers and deny food security access to millions of seniors and children. You'll notice in that statement, yet again, the governor of New York refusing to answer the question: how many illegal immigrants are taking government benefits? Now, state officials have told the New York Post that, quote, most undocumented individuals are not eligible for full Medicaid coverage. Now, notice the words they used. Most undocumented individuals are not eligible for, quote, full Medicaid coverage. By the way, that statement would also be true for most American citizens are not eligible for full Medicaid coverage, and that the small group that is enrolled in the state's program has not benefited, they claim, from federal dollars. Now, New York also claimed that spending was unrelated to the 1115 waivers. Well, then why would the governor of New York not answer the simple question that was put to her by Wesley Hunt? Now, Hunt noted that the Biden administration had rejected the use of those waivers for states like South Carolina, Arizona, and other states. The Texas Republicans stressed that the waivers were not intended to allow illegal immigrants to benefit American tax dollars going for their health care coverage. Now, the Biden administration allowed and even encourage the use of these 1115 waivers to extend Medicaid to undocumented immigrants, something that Democrats are now claiming never happened. And despite federal law actually prohibiting them from receiving these benefits, Hunt wrote in a letter to Hochul on Monday. Now, back in February, President Trump also signed an executive order that directed his administration to ensure, and to maximum extent possible, that, quote, no taxpayer-funded benefits go to unqualified aliens. That order pointed to existing law, such as the Personal Responsibility and Work Opportunity Reconciliation Act of 1996, which generally blocks illegal immigrants from getting federal benefits from taxpayers. The Texas Republican also cited concerns about New York's Green Light Law, which permits all state residents, regardless of immigration status, to get driver's licenses. Now, the Justice Department filed a lawsuit against that law, arguing that it hamstrings federal enforcement of immigration law. Hunt argued it could help illegal immigrants get access to taxpayer-funded benefits, using the driver's license to gain that access. And to address these concerns, Hunt now demanded that Hochul conduct a review of its Medicaid enrollment base on Social Security numbers and release those findings to the public, saying this: New Yorkers deserve transparency, accountability, and adherence to law in the administration of public health programs. Policies that divert limited resources away from lawful recipients, American citizens, not only violates federal standards, they also destroy public trust and threaten the sustainability of programs designed to serve our most vulnerable American citizens. Now, Hunt has also drawn speculation over recent weeks that he may vie for Senator John Cornyn's seat in the Senate in Texas in the 2026 midterms. And this could very well be one of those points that he would campaign on. Now, let me say one other thing about this. We deserve answers. The American people as taxpayers deserve to know where their money is going, and if it is being diverted to 670,000 illegal immigrants in the Empire State. Yes, about 4.5% of its population. One other thing that I think is also a point that needs to be made. You notice that Democrats did not deny in any of the statements coming from the governor's office that illegal immigrants are receiving benefits. And they worded it carefully to say, well, some may, but most aren't. And most aren't receiving full benefits. Well, that also goes for the same with the American citizen base that are eligible for Medicaid benefits as well. It is supposed to help the weakest, the least, the poorest, and those that are the most in need. Yet, many Americans do not qualify for full benefits. So why are we giving those benefits to illegal immigrants? That's the question every American should be asking.
Thank you for listening to the 47 Morning Update with Ben Ferguson. Please make sure you hit subscribe wherever you're listening to this podcast right now. And for more in-depth news, also subscribe to the Ben Ferguson Podcast, and we will see you back here tomorrow.
This is an iHeart podcast.